Yeah. We are waiting your question, problem, while I'm sending. Can we take help from other source while? What do you mean take help from other source? You mean you need some other resources? At the beginning of each lecture, in the first slide, we have different references. You can refer to them for additional resources and additional exercises.
Excuse me, sir.
And yeah, go ahead.
I haven't taken the computer in my high school, and I don't know anything about basic concept about the programming.
Okay.
So for the basic concept, I think I can get help from the other source, right? Because I don't know anything. Like I just did QBasic in grade 10. After that, I just did science, and I didn't do computer there. So and actually, I'm doing the major in physics, and they just told me to do 1 semester for the computer. So I have zero knowledge about the programming.
No worry. I don't expect all of you have. I don't expect anyone to have a knowledge in programming. It is an introductory course. It is a very basic one. It is 100 level, which means it can be taken after you finish your math courses. It can be second semester or first semester if you have already taken the required math courses. So I don't expect that any one of you have any basics in programming. My question for you now, Prabin, have you already, I don't know if you was asked before, have you already watched the recorded video?
Yeah, I have.
Go ahead to look. Yeah,
watched.
so if you have concrete question, let me continue for you this. If you have concrete question and you want me to help you individually, so you can join the virtual office hour. Or if you live in Canada, you can come to my office. So there is already a schedule I published with course syllabus. You can find the schedule for office hour. There is virtual office hour, but if you want to select the virtual office hour, please send me email before to book for you a time, or you can come to my office in the dropping period where you can enter without any appointment.
Okay.
So I will be very happy to help you on this. Yeah, so so far, do you have a concrete question you want me to help you?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have looked your the recording, and I know about the data type and about the loops, but I don't know how to use them. Like I just know the theory. I don't know the practical thing.
Yeah, you have already followed up the exercises.
Sorry?
You live in Canada or you live outside Canada?
I just came to Canada 4 months ago.
So you can come to my office in Chilliwack, or it is somehow you prefer to do it online virtually?
I think I would prefer online because I have work for 3 days and 4 days I have class.
Okay, so do you have already checked the course syllabus for the office hour?
Yeah, it's like 5 p.m. or something like that.
There are 2 days. There are 2 time slots.
I'll check again that.
So go ahead and check what is a suitable time slot for you, and send me an email, and then you can join the virtual office. I will be me and you, and maybe we can revise some exercises, and I will help you on your logical thinking, how you can deal with different programming stuff. You have to do it now. Don't postpone it so much, because this course is sequential. When I said sequential, which means that you should understand what's taking place now, because in the later stage, maybe you will get confused or get lost. So it's better now. If there is something you want to discuss it with me, we can do it. If you need some individual support, I'm very happy to see you at the virtual office. So just check what is a virtual office hour, send me an email to book a slot, and I will see you individually. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You are welcome. Jordan, how are you, Jordan, today? To do it, yeah. But Jordan, concerning the software, maybe sometimes the Visual Studio be somehow complicated. I will. However, it is not so complicated, but you can use any editor, which means that not the Visual Studio, it is the only one that it is recommended. There is a huge amount of online editor, like the last time we make a group work using online editor, and you can now use it. So, and again, if you can't also do it, the same, yeah, not the plus, yeah, you can use it. However, you need a compiler. So there is something we name it editor or IDE, which means that the software you use it for editing the code and will help you because it would be compatible with this programming language. And there is a compiler. When you install the Visual Studio, there will be an editor like the Notepad++ platform plus the environment, which means the compiler. At the beginning of this course, we said that C++, like other higher level language, we need to have a compiler to translate this high level language to the machine language, because the machine can understand only machine language. So you should have a compiler installed. So if you can't do it, just tell me, and maybe we'll have a virtual office with you. You can share your computer with me, and I can do it with you online in this case. By the way, I think that also we can, because normally if this course would be in the physical classroom, you are always welcome. There will be a lab and lab assistant. I will double check if one of the students, from senior student, because according to the university rule, we can have a lab assistant. So if you can't join me in the virtual office, maybe you can go to the lab. So I will double check with the administration if we can have a lab assistant with a difference office hour for the labs. That sometimes you can go to the lab if you can't come to my office, and somebody there will help you in this case. I will double check how we can do this. Maybe I can pick one of the students from advanced courses that he can do this. I will double check this also. Yeah, it can be in Abbotsford, yeah, because I think the Oxford is the main campus. Yeah, I will do my best. I will double check this with this week with them. Normally, we should have somebody. I said before we're going to online, but even though we are on online, because now the campus is open and there is an access to the student to the campus, just came to my mind, maybe we can have a lab assistant that he can be in the lab for a specific time, that he can help you in this if you can't come to my office in Chilliwack in this case. Okay, I want to share the PowerPoint now, because based on what Lisa had already suggested, give me just 1 second. Let me get rid of the exercises part. And again, try your best that if you have time, always go to the live session. Because live session, it's not only to discuss, it's also live session. You are welcome, Lisa. Live session is also that we can practice some exercises and you can ask me directly some questions. So this here, I will get this out and this out. So save it, PDF. I share in the chat the PDF for today lecture note. It was all the slides that we are going to discuss, except the one that without exercises. Okay, let's start. Today lecture, I will share my screen. Please, if you see my screen, the full screen, the lecture note, I need a thumbs up for you, please. 2 thumbs up are perfect. Thank you so much. The last time we have already discussed the flow of control. We talked about for loop, about while loop, about do while loop. Again, based on the discussion that we said, programming language, maybe sometimes because it is a first programming language, we take it, and if you are not familiar with programming language, we found something strange with the syntax. However, it is programming, it is, let's say, it is a mathematical practical course, which means that you have to learn not only syntax, you have to learn also logical thinking, but using a formal syntax. Again, you are going to learn how to have a logical thinking, however, using a formal syntax. When we were in the high school, we are going to write mathematics, but when we are going to use integral, when we have to use equation, there is a special format where how we are going to write this mathematics abbreviation notation. The same issue, we should have a logical thinking. However, we use a special syntax or format based on the programming language that we are learning or we are practice. So for loop, while loop, do while loop, we have already discussed this before. Also, we discussed how we can create C++ functions. And we discussed also the variable scopes. When we have a function now, there is a scope based on the function, there is a scope based on the main function, there is a global variable, and we talk about the constant variable, that the scope is for the whole file that we are using. Today, I will discuss 2 points. Continuing the function, there is something we name it predefined function. The last time we learned how we create a function. Today we are going to learn how we create a predefined function, which means that how there is already existing function is being defined, and this function is somehow used or created or declared for a special purpose. So rather than creating this function again and reinvent the wheel, we can just call the function. The last time you have already learned how we can create a function and how we can call a function. 2 different points. Create a function or declare a function. We were going to write a code to tell what is the argument of this function, what will this function will take as an input, and what will return as an output. So today we are going to deal what is the predefined function that just we can call them based in how they are being already declared, not by us. There are a predefined libraries. So when I said or use the word library, library, we know library, university library. So it is a place where there is huge set of books. Library here, there is a huge set of classes. In this course, we will not talk about object-oriented. We will not talk about object and the classes. In more advanced courses, you are going to talk about it. However, when I set a library set of books, so like this is when we talk about university library. So here in programming, when I said library, it is set of classes. Let's see, a set of programming files. Because for us, this is the main file or the main program file that we have to create it and run it. This is one of the files. So you have a library, you will have a set of classes, and each class will have a set of functions. So normally, because people, they have to make this C++ compiler and C++ IDE and C++ environment, they have to predefine different functions that we expect it to be used by many people based on different applications. Like here, square root. I want a function that will give a double value and will return for me the square root for this. So this function is already being defined here. We can, if you install, you have a C++ IDE with the environment, which means that the settled compiler already being installed, you should be able to use this function. Just calling. Again, it's somebody here. Still, he's ambiguous or confused between the word declaring or. Yeah, we are going to include them now. We will see the, yeah, Lisa, we are going to see now how we, but I'm talking now about what I mean by declaring a function and calling a function. Declaring a function, which means that we implement what is the argument of the function and what is the expected return. Calling the function, we use the function. We use the function. The same when you make a form. You create a form, you need a special input from the users because you are going to process a report. So you put the form, you put how many sentences, you put the blanks, and you ask people to go ahead and fill out this form. So creating the form, creating the blanks, it is like declaring a function. And then we are going to go and call the function, execute the function. So in this case, we are not going to declare the function because it's being already declared using predefined libraries. Like here, if I'm going to use the square root, I have to include the mass. Include the mass. This is when we use this include. We have already seen this when we talk about input output. We have to include input output stream because cin, cout, these two functions that we use it from the beginning, either to get an input or to set an output. This two function is being already predefined in a library. So you have always to include. If we don't include this library in our file, we will have a compilation error because the compiler doesn't know this function. You haven't declared this function and you are calling it. So from where it comes? Either it should come from a special library, you have to include it at the beginning of your file, or you declare your own function in this case. The name, sometimes you need the library and the namespace. Namespace, which means that because this is set of library, which means that there will be in special directory, a special namespace in this case. So sometimes we need library with a namespace, and the namespace is the directive or the directory where there are all these libraries being included in this case. Another example, another function, absolute value. There is a function absolute, ABS, that will return an integer value of the argument x, whatever it is, the argument, you put it here. And there is another function, f absolute, it's named f, which means that here we expect that to return double value. This is some of this. There is a huge list. I don't expect that you should going to know this list. We are dealing with a programming course. So programming course, I don't expect you have to memorize what is a predefined. Myself, I don't know all of them. I know a few of them that I use it normally when in my daily work. So sometimes if there is a predefined function, especially in math function, you have to go ahead to different references to see if this function exists or not. And now because C++ is a very old language, so all the library is being updated, but whatever math function you can consider it, you can find it that it's being already. But you should know always what is the name of the function, what is the argument. You know what is argument? Input. And normally we discussed the last time, when you will have an input, when you declare a function or special input, when you are going to call it, you should give the same type according to what is being already declared. So if this function is being declared to take an integer, you can call it using a float or a double argument. So sometimes you will have an overloading, and we discussed it before, which means the same function, you can have different implementation. And each implementation, it has its own argument. So sometimes you can say the same function will take sometimes integer, another implementation will take double. As I said, this course is sequential. Sequential means that please do your best, especially it is an introductory course. Because it is introductory course, you have to study it weekly. I'm not saying this because I'm giving this course. Because this course, you can't wait till you have an assignment or you have a final to study it. You will get lost. You see, today I'm talking about predefined function. I expect all of you, you know what is a function, how it's being declared, how it's being called, what is an overloading of function. If you have somebody here doesn't know this because he doesn't have time to revise the old lecture, he will not understand now what's taking place clearly. And this course is very important, even though it is 100, because it is the first step in programming. And if you are now familiar with this concept, it will be very easy to you later to go further and further and further. And now programming course or programming language, as we have here somebody from physics, maybe we have somebody from mathematics, we have somebody from the business maybe. You are going to know this programming or create your own program. It's not just for computer science. Maybe different people in different science domain, they need to know programming. So you should know about the type of argument, what expect here, because to know how to call it, and what is the type of argument that it expects that it will return. Like here, it will return integer. And what is the library that includes this function? Because you have to include this library at the beginning of your file when you will use this function. So it is a user manual of the predefined function. The predefined function is not this huge amount of predefined. It's just an example of different predefined function. So again, you should know what is the name, what is the argument, the input, what is the expected return or the output type, and what is the name of the library that contains this function, because you have to include it in your file. The main point from this predefined function, why I have already discussed it now, because how we generate a random number. We will use it many times because sometimes we need to have a random number generated by our program to use it in different applications. In order to use a random number, maybe people who work with math, there's something we name it pseudo-random number algorithm. It is a mathematical algorithm. It will random number based on seeds. So it will generate a random number based on seeds. So you will have a seeds, that in order to make this random generation. And when you make this random generation, it will be based on it can be from zero till a maximum number. If we use this library, I think this library will be till 32767. I'm not quite sure, but I'm thinking, yeah. So the random maximum, if we use this library, we expected, when we call this function, to get a random number between 0 and 3276. 32,767. So, however, we should have a seeds. So this is time 0. It doesn't mean that you have to use it, but because we don't have any other references to use it in this case, we use time 0 will get for us the actual time now in second, which means that hour, minute, second, all we can see it in the second, to just give return for us a number. We have always not to have the same seed to expect different result, but sometimes you will have the same random, which means that it doesn't mean when if we can now try an example, it doesn't mean that if you run a program now, it doesn't mean that this random number generation will not get you a duplicate random number, because it is random. It can be the same. It's like die. Sometimes you throw a die, you will get 2, then you get 3, then you get 6, then you get again 6. However, we have always to have a variety of random number generated that whenever we are going to call this function again, to give another seed for this, to expect another result. So this is why we always ask the program to get the actual time now, because when I said the word actual, the time before this word actual was something, and after actual was something. So this is always you get a new number using this kind. It is not a must, it is a standard. Again, it is not a must, it is a standard. Because time 0, it is the only way we can get different number, because time doesn't stop. And each time we get this number, we use it to generate another random number. Let's see an example. Here, this is a complete example. I ask you, suppose that you are programming a game. And it is the same like throwing a die. You know that's to have die between that 1 of 6. You have a die, 1 of 6. So I have to include first SCT-DLB, SCT time. Why is it C time? Because I have to use this function. CST dlib, because I have to use this random and this random function. And IOStream library, because I have to use CNC out. So I include all that libraries that I needed, because in each of this library I will use a predefined function. First, I have to create the seeds. I take the time, the actual time now. I expect this random number to return an integer. This is why I create an integer I. You see here, forget this +1. If we make a modulo of 6, then I expect number between 0 and 5. Because I said this is a modulo of 6, which means the remainder of the division. The remainder of the division will be less than 6. This is why I added +1 in order to be sure that I can get also 6. See out I, then make an. Let us try, and also to get a good opportunity to use a Visual Studio Editor or whatever it is editor. I will copy this, and I will put it here, and I will open my Visual Studio. Yeah. It's open now. Return 0. Okay, here it is. No, sorry. I just open, create the project. As I said before, when you're going to use here, you saw my, you can see my Visual Studio, yeah? I need one thumbs up. Perfect. So when you have a Visual Studio is being already installed, just you can create new project. You have to create, you choose, as we said before, a console app. Sure, if you will be more advanced programmer, then you can going to create a real desktop application you use this. Here, console app, just we need the auto to see it in the console. So after this, in order to have this, one, I have already installed the Visual Studio. I should have already installed a Visual Studio that was C++ environment. Maybe it's in here or no, because it's being already installed here. So again, somebody, I will, you know, I will create a video. How I can go to online and download it, and then how I can install with C++ environment, I will share with you. I do it this week also. Maybe this will help you also. Robin, I saw your message now. Why you are using namespace? Yeah, namespace. When we said namespace, which means that the directory that will use the whole library, the whole files in it. Just show you here the example.
So we have to always use that before beginning the main part? Yeah,
after you, which means that this is somehow like it is a scope. The scope of all what you have already identified, which means they should be all in the same scope.
Okay.
Which means that it is like let's see, we are in a classroom. So if we are going to have a one class, and it should be a normal class, and we said all in this we belong to the same class, we should be in the same classroom. We can't have another student in another class, and another student in the third section, another in fourth section. We should be in the same classroom, either it is a virtual or a physical one. So this is why we have to use a namespace or create our own namespace where we use it to execute our file, including all libraries that we have already used. Because here, if you can see here, we use 3 different libraries now. So we include this library in our file. So this is library plus the files that we are creating. They should be in the same namespace when we executed it. So we should have a namespace also. The same like when I said classroom. We should be all in the same classroom when we executed, or we are taking the same material in this case. Are you okay for this, Robin?
Yes, sir, I get it now.
So it's more like a scope. It's more like a scope. Okay. So let's see this example that we said. So we have this is include. We use an already existing namespace std, and this is a main function. In each C++ application, we should have a main function. Here we make a seed random generation, which means a seed random generation, which means make this, you use this random, we take time 0. If you want, by the way, we can also make a say out to see what is the time that it will be printed out when. So let's now, and here we generate the random number. We have a modulo of 6. So we expect that we will have a random number between 0 and 6. If you will not make a +1, it will be less than 6, because we are throwing a die. So this die we are throwing it, we expect to have a number, an integer number, between less than 6, including 6. Yeah, this is because maybe we have made the time. Let's first get this in order to be clear, and then we see here the time. So here we got 4. You see, we get 4. Let's run it again. It should always give us less than 6, including 6. Here we get 3. Here we get 2. Here we get 3. You see? So this random number is all being generated. Here we get 5. We don't expect what will be the random number. And here we get 3. So let me now, does it make say out for the, let me say out for the time. So time, here this is give me the actual time in second. So it gives me a number. You see, if you remember, it was 115. This is now 1125. So if we return, so this is now 1132. So the time function will return for me the actual time now in second. I will use it as a seeds to generate a random number. And then this random number, as I have already said, because we are using CSTD lib, it will generate, normally it generates a random number between 0 and 32767. I will double check, but I think 327767 in this case. So if I will not make this modulo 6, let's not make just, yeah, I will create this. Do it just, sorry. So I don't make modulo 6, I just take the random number as it is. Use, oh, sorry, I'm printing out the time. Also, I want to get out this printing out the time. Just print I. You see, I got 32241. If I run it again, I get 32264. Run it again, 32287. So the number will be between 0 and 3266767, something like this. So 7676. Yeah. So based on this here, in order to make a limitation or a restriction in the expected or have a special range, we have to use the modulo in this case. Because, you know, from math, when I said modulo, which means that the remainder was a division. So the remainder of division of 6, it will be less than 6. Always it will be less than 6. And because random return an integer, so I will expect also that the remainder will be an integer in this case, less than 6. If I want 6 to be included, I make a +1. This is very important because you, in your real life programming practice, many times you feel that you need to have this random number generation. I hope if it is clear, and if there is no any more question before I start with arrays, I need 3 thumbs up. Again, if you want, if it is clear so far, I need 3 thumbs up to continue. 2. Perfect. Array. Array concept. This concept or this data storage, you will find it in all programming courses or programming languages. There is no programming language without an array to be used or an array to include in this. So array, it is a collection of data. So if you have a set of muffins, you put it in this way, so it is an array of muffins, array of donuts. So what do we need from an array? Because sometimes we have a set of values, and this all set of values will give them the same name, or we have to point to them using the same label. For example, students grades. You put this grade, you said this is the list of the students' grades. So students grades, list of the student grades. So you give it one label, one name. You can say this is a grade for student 1, this is a grade for student 2, this is a grade for student 3, this is a grade for student 4, as if you are creating a variable for each value, like so far what we know from variables. Variables can hold one value, and each of this value should have a specific type according to C++ format. However, we can have a set of variables with the same type. Because array in C++, we have to declare the type of the array of all elements in this array. However, we can label them giving only one label. So in the memory of our, again, when we talk about variable, when we talk about array, it is a temporary memory storage. Again, it is a temporary memory storage. What does this mean? It is not like in this course, we are not going to talk about the database in the advanced courses. However, during this course, at the end or at the middle of this course, maybe we can talk about how we can store data in a file. So if you are going to store data in a file or in a database server, in this case, we said that it is a permanent data, because when you will shut down your software or your computer, the data will stay saved and especially placed in your permanent memory, in your hard disk, or in a server in this case. However, variables, arrays, they will be in the temporary memory. When you run the program, you will use them, and when you shut down, the whole values will go out. So they will be in the temp. You know that in our computer we have a permanent data or memory, and then we will have the temporary memory, which is the RAM and the cache for the CPU, and the permanent one can be an external storage out or the hard disk. So all variables or array will be stored in the temporary memory. This is why at the beginning of this course, when we discussed about when you declare a type for a variable, try your best to declare the exact type that expected to use it. which means if you don't make a long double, if you don't expect to have a double value with this space needed, because you will allocate a space in the memory for this variable. The same here. If you are going to define an array, as we see here, so when we define an array, so array will have a set of values, not only one value. So we will have a set of value like here. We give array name, like variable name. We give type, like we do the variable. However, we will have a size for this array, which is how many values we can hold or save in this array. So you should take care for two things here when you declare the size. Don't overuse the space memory. Don't create a bigger size than expected. And you have to take care about the size that the size that you are going to use it, or not to overuse the size, which means that if you declare 4, you can put a fifth element. If you put it, sometimes you will not get an error, but you will get a run error. You're not a compilation. As a compiler, it's okay. You declare a variable, you give it what the size, but when later during the running the program, you can get the error. So take care not to declare a bigger size, because you will allocate a memory space, and then there's the temporal memory or the RAM of your computer or the cache, it is a space limited memory. So in order not more. And if we declare a size, we should be so restricted to size not to put an out of range element based on the predefined size we have it. There are more dynamic, we can talk about it later. We are more dynamic data storage. Like we will have a dynamic size. Array here, this is basic array. It is not a dynamic size. It will take the size that we have already declared. There are other data storage in C++ that they have dynamic storage, which means that you can put whatever you want in this, and it will take the size based on the element you have already stored, or the values you have already stored. How you initialize it? So either you, like here, you just declare it. You said, you compiler, I want to create an array, I name it cars. This is a 4 element in this array. And another point you have to take care, 4 element, but we start with index 0. So the first element had an index 0, the second one 1, the third one 2, the fourth one is 3. So don't be confused between the size of the array and the index label or the index number, because it starts from 0, not from 1. So here we declare it the same when we declare a variable, but however we didn't give a value. So we have to give a value or store different values. Based on this declaration, we can store 4 values in this array. So when we are going to, either we can also declare it and initialize it in the same time. So like here, I declare an integer array, I say it my num. It has 3 elements. It can take 3 values. This is the first value, this is the second value, this is the third value. And then here, when I declare and initialize an array at the same time, in this case, I can give the value based on the type. You have to take care for the type. So if you give string, then the whole element should be string. You can't put something string, something integer, something double. You have to put element based what you have already declared. So if you put here this, in this case, we don't have to give the size, because it will take the size based on your first declaration initialization for this array. So this array has a size of 3. Because when we declare it, we initialize it and we give a 3 value. Automatically, it will be created with size 3 in this case. So either you can declare it and then initialize it, or you can declare it, initialize it, if you know what is the value you are going to store in it. And you can also initialize it and declare it without giving the number of element. It will take the initial number of values that is the array size in this case. How we can access an element? Because, for example, here, if we have an array of length 10, the first index is 0 and the last one is 9. So we can, like I here declared string cars for 4 element. This is index 0. This is index 1. This is index 2. And this is index 3. So when I make a say out, I will make a say out car 0. Car 0, which means that I want to take the value stored in the first element of index 0. So we can't say, for example, see out, we can't cars 4. This doesn't exist because we have from 0, 1, 2, 3, we have 4 elements now. Many times the student, they will get ambiguous with it. Can we set variable for the sizes or set? Yeah, you can set a variable. You can declare. Why this? Because when they have to create the C++ programming language, they define to start it from index 0. Also, Java starts from 0. So again, as we said, it is a higher level language. We have to use it based on how it was defined to use it. We use a formal syntax. We are learning the syntax. Yeah, because they have to start from 0. Yeah, because maybe even though the memory is a memory in the computer, because it's somehow mapped to the memory location will start from 0 index. So 0 number we have to start because it is a number we have to use it in this case. Okay, we have another question from Cora. Cora said, can we set a variable for the size? Yeah, you can set. You can set string, for example, you can make integer I, but it should be integer, not put double here. You can set integer I equal 4, and you said here you can put here I rather than 4 in this case. But it should be integer. Take care, it should be integer. Because here the number of element, it is an integer element. Advantage of an array. Array can store a large number of values with single name, like here, cars. We store 4 types, 4 names of a Volvo, Mercedes, whatever it is. We store it in using one label, cars, with different values. Yeah, they are, and later if, for example, I want to calculate the average, we can see it now, the average of the students' grades in a class. So I can store it, the whole data in an array, and then I can make looping for them to get this. So it will be easier to make let's forward processing in this case. The value stored in array can be sorted easily, yes, because they are now in the same package. So each one had an index. I can point to it using an index, not like, well, for example, if I have an array of 4 elements, if I don't use an array, I have to use four variables, X, Y, Z, W. So in this case, it's not easy to sort them because they are not in the same container. So it's easier to put it in the same container than I can sort them based on different criteria I wanted. The search process can be applied in an array easy. Yeah, sure, as I have said, since sorting is easy and also searching, again, because they are in the same container now. Looping, it's very important. We can use one of the loops. Most probably we use for loop. Why for loop? If you remember the last time when we said we have now, we can use while loop, do while, and for loop. And we said that when we use for loop, when we use while, we said that we use for loop if we have an increment or we have or decrement for a predefined number or a counter. Here, if you are going to go to the loop of the array, we can know, or we should know before we looping the array, the size of this array. So knowing the size, it will be our loop counter. So in this case, we can use the for loop because we have a predefined counter. So we can use the for loop that we have already discussed before in order to make a looping. Here, take this example. Here's this example, we declare an integer I. We will use it as a counter. You can see here, we also declare, by the way, here when I said integer I score max, I make not semicolon, I just make a colon between of them. They all are integer now. It is a shorthand declaration. When said integer I score 5 maximum, in this case, all they are integer. So I declare now integer I variable, another variable maximum, and also an array. This array score 5, which means that score 5, we will have an array with 5 elements, all are integer. Okay, we ask the user here to enter 5 elements. We send a message, then we make a cn. Each element, we 5 scores. We make score the first one and the score 0. When I said the score 0, which means I am pointing if it is, as we said. This is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2, this is index 3, this is index 4. Do we have this? No. Because there are 5 elements now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So index 0, which means this is the first element. I will put it here. I will expect the maximum, it is the first because I don't have any other element. Now, I will make a looping from 1. I can start the loop from 0, but I started from 1 because I have the initial value. I make a loop from 1 till 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times this loop. I have already the 0 with me. And from each iteration, I will ask the user to give me a value. I store it here, then store it here, then store it here, then store it here. So at the end of this loop, I get the data stored in the array because I make a cn and put it in the array. And in the same time, we also store it and comparing to what we have. Is it this number, we take it first, now the new number being entered is less or greater than maximum? So if it is greater, then we'll update the maximum variable with the new value. We are here in this program, we are doing 2 things. Saving data, we get it from the user. Again, we're saving data, we get it from the user. We are saving this data in an array, and at the same time, we are checking each value we get it from the user to see if it is the maximum, comparing in the whole data that we have it so far. And now, The maximum here, I can know here that is a maximum. And then I'm just here, I'm printing out maximum minus the difference between the whole element comparing to the maximum. So this is an example of an application. We make two looping. The first loop to get data. The second loop, after we have already now known was we knew who's the maximum value, we are going to use another loop to make a difference between the maximum value and other element in the array. So again, I can create a loop. We here created from 1, but normally we started from 0 because we have a 0 index, like here. Because we have to go to the whole element, and each element we're comparing with the maximum and make this difference value and print out the difference value. So we can start from 0 because array index 0, and we have less than 5, and then we make an increment. So for loop, it is the best loop comparing to for while, do while, that we have to use it. We can use while, but normally we have to use for because we can use one statement, declaring the counter, starting it from 0, and make a Boolean expression less than the size of the array. And using this loop, we can go to the whole element. Either we will save or we retrieve. Either we will save or we retrieve data from an array in this case. This is, I have already discussed with you that sometimes you will see you will not get an error message. You will get it when you run your program. So take care that not to include an out range number in this case. So stacked in what you have already declared, not to have an error. Any questions so far about single dimension array, what we have discussed single dimension array? Just maybe, no, there is, maybe I have to open now, sorry, I have to open because we make two versions, one version, we send it to you without the exercises, and we now use predefined versions. Yeah, here it is. Oh, no, you saw maybe the answers. Okay, so let's start with the exercises before we continue. Small slide exercises, it will help us to better understand it. Let's do it with each other. So, yeah, again, brainy. So, first question. Create an array, type string, called cars. Fill in the blank. So, what is missed here? Yeah, go ahead, Medina. So, string, yeah, Dietrich, Lisa. String cars, perfect virage. Yeah, string cars, because we have to give a type. As we said, we have to give a type, and we have to give a name. So type and name. So type will be string, because it contains strings, and we have to give a name for the array. By the way, this we name it string array declaration or array declaration and initialization. What we name it. So this is this one statement, we name it array declaration or array declaration and initialization. So it is just only declaration, or it is declaration plus initialization. What do you think? I repeat my question. What we so far we have already discussed before, that yeah, Jordan, it is with, yeah, you are correct, with initialization, because if it is declaration, we do not set a value. This is declaration. Initialization, that we are going to set a value in this case. Second question from Brainy to us. Print the value of the second element in the cars array. So the question is, print the value of the second element of the cars array. How we can, this is, he wants us to print out the value of the second element. So what is missed here? Yeah, one, Robin said 1, Jordan said BMW. We are not talking, Jordan, about what is the output will be. Yeah, you are correct. The output will be, he said here, how we can write the code that we will have a BMW as an output. C out 1, just 1. Yeah, Viraj and Cora give us the correct question, correct answer. Cars 1. Because in order to access an element in array, you have to give the name of the array and the index of this element. So the second one will have, this is 0, this is 1. We will have index 1 in this case. So cars 1. Okay, now the question is, how change the value? We have to write a statement to change the value from Volvo to Opel. So this array should not include any more Opel. It should Volvo. Sorry, it should include Opel now. What is a statement to write it here? It's too easy. It's somehow you have to access the element and change the value. You have to access the element and change the value. So what is needed? Say out cars 1, 2, 3. This is like this. Problem, by the way, you have a nice progress that you start thinking in a logical way how you have to do it. However, yeah, like Lisa said, Cora said, and Liam, and Cora, yeah, you are correct. So in order to access this, so we are going, will point to here. We said here and put this value. Problem, sorry, what you are saying, you start give nice logical thinking. This is good. However, like when you want to write or solve a mathematics equation, you have to use a special format based in what is the formal format to write it. So if you want to write an integral, you have to write it like this. If you want to write an equation, you have to write x plus 1 equal like this. So we should have a logical thinking problem, plus we have to use, here's this word, the formal syntax. The formal syntax. Jordan just asked me why it is confusing, why they have to start from index 0. Because C++ syntax start from 0 index. So when you said Preben cars 1, 2, 3, first cars is a name of the array. Good, you got it. However, it is an array. It is not a variable. So we are going to access an element from this array. To access this element, we have to use this braces and give the index of the element in this case. Here, and this is here 0. So we can't say cars using this braces. We have to use this braces because it is the formal syntax of C++. So when we write a programming, the same when we learn a new language. Each language, it has its own syntax, and sometimes its own alphabets. Like the Latin language, we have different Latin language, English, French, German. By the way, Lisa, your name, I think so, it is a German origin, yeah? Dietrich, I think it is a German origin. Yeah, Austrian or German, yeah, it's the same. By the way, because I speak German, I finished my master in Germany. It was very tough because I have to learn the language in order. Yeah, it 1 year just to learn the language. So when you are going to learn a new language, Preben, when you go to learn this new language, first you have to learn the alphabet, and then you have to learn how you are going to use different words using this alphabet. And you can't write it another way. For example, we such talk about the Austrian or the German language. I don't know if you know this. In English, we read number from left for right. So the same how we read any string. We said 45. We write it 4, 5, 45. In German, no. They will start it from right to left. They will said 45, which means that 5, then 540. We said, why they have to do it? Because the standard of this language that they have to read the numbers from right to left, not from the left to right. This is why when you are, I'm telling you this because when you are going to learn a new programming language, you have to learn the logical thinking that is the same in all programming language, plus the formal syntax. You have to follow up the formal syntax. And in order to know the formal syntax, you have to practice. You see now we have this nice exercise. Most of us know how it was done. But if you don't go and practice it, write your code, even though you know the output, you have to write the code, you will not get accustomed or familiar for the syntax, the formal syntax of this programming language. So my advice for you all, programming language is very nice, and especially you will have a nice feeling when you start write your small code. You feel you have already done something. So, however, in order to reach a point that you are familiar with the syntax, you have to practice. So do your best, give yourself some time and practice the exercises. Even though it will be very simple, but your brain, the same when you learn. I remember when I learned, for example, we talk about the German language, I have to have small flyers and small cards when I have to go in the public transportation. I have to write the name of the word in German and then the meaning it in other language. So at that time, I have to put the meaning in French. So when I go, I said, okay, this language, this word, and if I don't memorize, I go to other one. So I practice it. I can get the language and can have a good level of from the linguistic level. My linguistic level will be better. Yeah, you can hear the French accent. Yeah. So yeah, it was very tough because learning German from a French, a very soft language, and you go from how tough language, the English is somehow between. It was not easy. So I think this Preben, you should now more, you can have, let's say, more hints how you can organize this in your own mind. And again, I'm expecting to see you in the virtual office to discuss it more in this case. The last question now, loop through the element in the cars array. So how we are going to loop the element, which means that we are going to print out this element, the whole element that we have it here in this array. So what is missed here? Yeah, Ayush, 4, correct, first one. Viraj, Viraj, always quick, perfect Viraj. Yeah, Viraj, 4 int I less than 4, and I plus plus. As we know, this is the typical standard for for loop. So, and since we have a 4 element, the size is 4, so we use it here, this. Don't worry, Preben, you will be the same like Viraj. I'm quite sure about it. So, see out, I have already typed it. See out cars I, because we are going to make, at each iteration, we have to print out the value, so we have to put cars, I, Volvo, then we have to go here, then we have to go here, and then we have to go here. So in each iteration, we have to print the element based on the value of the counter of this iteration. So car 0, car 1, car 2, car 3. It is 4 from 0. I think that we have already practiced this. We have still few slides. We haven't taken our break. So are you okay that I continue? And then we will have a group work, and this group work you can have time to rest and think about it. Yeah, perfect, Viraj, because C language, it is somehow, let's say it is the father of C++. C++, it is an advanced version from C language. So are you okay? Can I continue without a break, or you need a break? So if you want to continue without a break, I need 3 thumbs up, or I will give a break. Lisa, one thumbs up. Jordan, 1 thumbs up. So far, I have only 2 thumbs up. Okay, Viraj. Okay, I will continue. We have already discussed it. Now, the last part from here, it is a multidimensional array. A multidimensional array, what we have already discussed before, it is a single dimension array, which means that we have array with a list of values, and each value, it has an integer index. However, we can have a 2-dimension. It was unmuted. So muted. You can hear me, yeah? Give me just 1 thumbs up because I was unmuted. Okay. So the multidimensional array, it's somehow like a table that you can also have a set of values. However, you will have a row and column, and then when you are going to access a value, you have to give the row index and the column index. We can put this the same. For example, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can put it here as a 1-dimensional array. We don't have to use it a multi-dimensional array. However, sometimes, yeah, like a bottle shape, you are correct. Yeah, but sometimes we need it. Also, Jordan said like a bottle shape. So sometimes we need to have a multi-dimensional array because this value, we need to have a 2-index. A 2-index, why? The same, for example, like, yeah, here, student and the quiz. I want to store not only as, for example, the grade for this student for this quiz. I want to store the grades for all students in different quizzes. So if I want to retrieve this value, I will give it the ID of the student or the index of the student and also the index of the quiz. So if we have a set of values that we need 2 index for this, so we can use a multi-dimensional array. This is a 2-dimensional. You can create different dimensions based on what do you want. It will be as an array of arrays. Array of arrays. Yeah, because in this case, when you said, for example, grade 3, 0, or grade 3, you are talking about this, grade 3, all here they have grade 3. So as if in a grade 3, you have another array, it has index 0, 1, 2. So you will have each row as if it is a standing alone array. It is not a standing alone array, as if it is a standing alone array. So rather, we can do it in another way. We can declare 4 arrays for each student, and in each array we can put the quizzes grade for the student. However, this will be so confused because we all have different data storage. And sometimes I want to go ahead and directly select the value for this student for this quiz. Maybe because we are on a very basic level and we are in entrance level, or we are let's say as if you are now in the kindergarten and we are learning ABC in the programming. And sometimes this is why we will see, okay, why we need to do this like this, have a multi-dimensional array, and you have 2 index to a value. Accessing a data in a programming language is very important to be very efficient, very quick, because you will have this later when you will have more advanced level. You can see that you can perform the same algorithm in different coding style, on different syntax, or in different, let's say, code you write it. However, in advanced courses, I'm quite sure there is a course named Algorithm and Data Structure. It will be in maybe in another name in your program, but I'm quite sure you will have, especially who are computer science or a software engineer. There in this course, you will learn how you can differentiate what is the best algorithm or code to this problem. How we are going to see this based on complexity. What I mean by complexity? What is the time for this performance? So the less time we will have, the better complexity we will have, the better code we will have. So rather than having 4 arrays, we can have one 2-dimensional array, and in this way I can access the value directly based on 2 index. The index for the row and the index of the column. This is the whole for today. I will distribute you in 2 groups, and we will make a group work. So it is a very simple one, just 5 integer input from user and store C in an array. What is needed is that you don't be afraid from the group work. I will be with both of you, with the bossy groups. It will be a good opportunity to practice this. So you will take from the user 5 input, Cn, make a loop, as we did here in this exercise, and get this 5 integer. Store them in array. So you have to declare an array with 5 elements. Name it whatever you want. After saving the data in this array, just I need you to print out the sum and the average based in the input that you have already received from the user. So again, we have to write a small code that we have to take a Cn 5 values from the users and store them in an array. It is 1-dimensional array, 5 element. And then we are going to display the average and the sum. I think that all of you now, you have the PDF for because I have already shared as a beginning. So I will break you down and I will be with you in the 2 rooms now. See you soon. Let me first break you down. Yeah. Maybe I have to, because we have already one before, I would delete this one. And then delete this one. Let's create new rooms. So automatically 2 rooms. I will open now the rooms, and now you will leave here the main room and go to the